Well, good morning, everyone. It's Thursday morning. I have lost my corporate sponsor. Mary Porter's All-Purpose Peach Chutney has withdrawn their financial support from this, from my podcast or whatever this is. It's deeply troubling. They're angry, and I have to give an apology on the air. No, not because I criticized the quality of the peach chutney, but because I led you astray when I told you where you could find it in your friendly grocer. It is not in the soaps and detergents. And Mary was just livid about that. It's in the abrasives and in the cleanser section, where the hard stains are eradicated. That's where the chutney will be found in the attractive glass bottle. No, I went up to the Jmar Farms, risked my life, one of the few people with a mask, under the promise that there would be peach pie and peach cobbler and peach this and peach that. And what we've gotten so far is peach chutney. I'm not having it. All right, last week we talked pretty heavily and importantly, I think, on finding happiness by resolving the past. These are events that we have little choice about. We've done what we've done. We've made the mistake we've made. We've been remiss. That prayer, I love that prayer of the 1928 prayer book on the confession of sin, or now in Rite One. The only thing I like about those liturgies, the burden of the sins is intolerable. The memory is grievous unto us. I mean, we've done things and we have very little choice about them, but they can be overcome, not by eradicating them, but by placing alongside them something of positive hope and joy. A cousin of finding happiness by resolving the past, a cousin is, and just as deceptive, is finding happiness by overcoming weaknesses. And that's the common American cultural creed. If you have a weakness, you can eradicate it. You can overcome it. And you can learn a lesson, I think, from television. What happened to your favorite show? Well, the ratings were poor. You might be the only one who loved it, but the ratings were poor and they canned it. They canned it. I remember being, as a high school kid, a consultant came into the class and tried to get us to make good choices, learn how to make choices. And I remember him putting cans of peas and beans and corn, and we all owned the cannery company, Del Monte or whatever it was. And the peas were not selling, but the corn was selling and the beans were selling. And how are you going to increase your sales? Well, what I decided to do was put a better label on the peas and put little breaks, anyway, and concentrate on the weaknesses. And of course, that was just the wrong thing to do. What you do is you can the peas and throw them out and do better with your corn and beans. And they taught you that's how you market. You market strength. And so practicing overcoming weaknesses is a draining off of energy. We all have systemic weaknesses. Everybody has a weakness. Everybody is not good at everything. You may be good at many things. I personally feel I'm good at one or two things. And I, in my old age, take comfort in what those one or two things are. And that's where I spend my day. I don't try to do things I can't do. Oh, I've done that, failed miserably, and there's a reason why. I've married a wonderful person whom you know. If you do know Mary, you know she's wonderful, but she's very different from me. I am an extrovert. She is an introvert. I am a intuitive kind of person. Mary is a sensing, thinking kind of person. I am a feeling kind of person. She is a computing kind of person. And we have divided up the family life in such a way that her skills, she does all the banking, she does all the financial stuff. And I decided whether or not we recognize red china. I have skills, and so I do what I love to do. If you don't have the skill and if you don't have the capacity, is that a weakness? You just don't have it. You just can't compensate for a skill that you don't have. Not all of us can hit a baseball. Not all of us can run fast. Not all of us are public speakers. Not all of us are great teachers. Not all of us have computer skills. Not all of us are tech savvy. We don't have to mock people who don't have all the skills, especially the skills that I might have, because that's an opportunity for me to connect with them and help them. It's a waste of profitable energy that could be better used someplace else. Concentrate on the energy of what you can do, not what you can't do. Now, this is going to be backwards for you, but if you look at the New York Times style section on Sunday, they have a tremendous article, 5 or 6 different authors on what is freedom, especially in the light of Juneteenth, June 19th, the day of the Emancipation Proclamation. I guess that's what it was. And in the aftermath of the brutal murder in 1921 and destruction, vile destruction of human life in Tulsa, Oklahoma on the 31st of May and the 1st of June, 1921. And the article is all about you can have the kind of world you want. There's a resurrection in this document. And it's wonderful. I have an example. I have a metaphor. I have an analogy. All analogies limp. All metaphors limp. They're not equated, but they shed light on it. And it comes from my love of my life, the New York Giants, 2007, playing the New England Patriots. They had been undefeated that year. The Giants were not to beat them. The bookkeepers were far betting on the Patriots to win. And it was a hard-fought game. The first half ended with a 10-7 lead for the Giants, 3 points. And that score stayed solid until the fourth period. 3 minutes to go, New England scored a touchdown and made it New England 14, New York 10, with 2 minutes and 33 seconds to go in the game. And I said to myself, well, that's it. Now, that was not depression. That was just realism. You're going to put a bet on the Giants, down 4 points with 2.5 minutes to go against the best team in football. But Eli Manning came out, and this man, was a great believer in positing strength. So he said to the Giants in the huddle, 79 yards for a touchdown. Let's go get it. And he did. He had luck. You always have to have luck. 2 or 3 plays, if they had just gone the way they should have gone, the Giants would have been in ignominy. But he was successful. And he was successful because Michael Strahan, the New York Giant defensive end, came to the offensive line just before they took the field with 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go, down by 4 points. And he said, remember, the score is New England 14, Giants 10. He said, 17-14, fellas. That's the final. 1 touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen. And that's what this article is about. We can have the world we want. We don't have to have a world of viciousness. We don't have to have a world of acrimony. We can have a world where we can do something decent about this. And it will be the sermon embedded in the agony of what's happening in this country today. There's a sermon embedded in that. And the sermon embedded in that misery, in that death, and in that horror is hope. That's what this is all about. It's hope. We can have the world we want. We can have hope. We can have a renewal of joy in the midst of a people who have suffered enough for so long. The future you want is coming. And what I love about that is I believe it begins to pay tribute to the world that I once knew, because the civil rights movement that I was involved in as a young man was visionary. And maybe we are beginning to see the visions. So many of the traps about weakness is, or are, that we have culturally accepted weaknesses. Weaknesses which are encouraged, weaknesses which are rewarded, weaknesses which do emphasize our liabilities. And I'll give you one, workaholism. Now remember, we said a long time ago that there were three components to happiness, one of which was multi-dimensional living. Namely, you had yourself, you had your family and your friends, and you had your work. Aristotle said, a life to live, someone to live it with, and work to do. But work is greedy. Work begins to co-opt that triangle and begin to, like a mobile, pull one of the little figures down so the whole thing becomes imbalanced. Why? Because work is imperative. We need it. We need to be compensated. And when our bosses say, be there tomorrow, no overtime, be here at 8 o'clock. If we don't go, somebody else will. And it breeds a compulsivity. You know, it's interesting, the Department of Labor in the Fair Labor Standard Act of 1938 established what? Abolition of child labor and no work on Sunday. Did away with the 7-day work week. And child labor, of course, was a scandal. And Upton Sinclair or Sinclair Upton. He wrote so much about this. And his novels were very, very, very important for the formulation of the Fair Labor Standards Act. I know we're Americans. We don't want to be like other people. But let me tell you something. The work efficiency in the economies of the world is Germans are first. Well, that shouldn't be a surprise. Germany, France, you mock the French. Are you sitting down? Chile. Are you sitting down? Israel, Japan, and lastly, the United States in this column of 6. In Germany, there are 20 mandatory vacation days for each worker, guaranteed by the government, and 20 holidays, state holidays. So that's 40 days off a year. The average American, 75% of Americans do not take their full vacation that they've negotiated in their contracts. And by the way, vacations in the United States are totally up to you and me to negotiate with our employer. We have holidays. How many? 10. No statutory vacation days demanded by the government. Nope. We can work ourselves to death. And our efficiency is not all that good. We have an enormous amount of absenteeism, enormous amount of alcoholism and drug abuse and shoddy labor. I know we don't like to believe that, but Germany has 20 and 20. France has 25 days statutory vacation, and 10 national holidays. Chile has 30 days statutory vacation and 10 national holidays. Israel 21 and 18. The U.S. 0 and 10. And the average vacation of an American worker is 4 days. And why don't we take longer vacations? We don't take longer vacations because we're afraid of some anxiety that if I'm not there, somebody will do my job. And then the boss may say, well, why do we need Porter? Bill, you've done a great job. Why don't we just consolidate? And Porter's gone. And so therefore I better be there and I better struggle to be present because somebody will do my job better or just do the job and they can cut costs. And so workaholism is an honor in this country. I mean, if you work all day, John Porter works 80 hours a week. I've known rectors who have boasted that they've worked 80 hours a week. And there's only one problem with that. It has nothing to do with longevity of hours. Sometimes you have to work a lot. But it deprives yourself, it deprives your family, and the work begins to consume you. And that is a difficulty. Anyway, I'll talk about a little more of this. We don't have many more of these left, you know. I better find another corporate sponsor. But it's interesting. We try to compensate by eradicating the past, and that's the route to happiness, and it isn't, because it can't be done. We try to overcome our weaknesses by concentrating on them. And that is energy that is much better served by replacing the misery with hope, the pain with love, the sadness with joy. It can be done. It will be done. People do it all the time. And let's hope we can. All right. On behalf of Mary Porter's All-Purpose Peach Chutney, this is John Porter signing off. And good luck and God bless.